Hello and a very warm welcome to another edition of World Panorama. Here we are getting you your weekly dose of major international news with a perspective. I'm Sana Khan. Before we get you detailed reports, here's a look at the top stories this week. Pakistan's political turmoil refuses to die down. For now, a deal is struck. Cleric Tahir al-Qadri's party may take part in national election. Trouble for Boeing. India, US and other nations ground its Dreamliner aircraft following safety concerns. And former cyclist and tainted champion Lance Armstrong admits he used drugs to win major championships in all Tour de France titles. Well, this week, the focus is on the political uncertainty that continues in Pakistan. The Pakistan government on Thursday reached out to fiery cleric Tahir al-Qadri, who had been camping outside Parliament along with thousands of protesters for the fourth day in a row, demanding the government's resignation and dissolution of the national and provincial assemblies. A four-day sit-in outside Parliament House in Islamabad ended after the protest leader Qadri and the government reached an agreement over the implementation of the protesters' four demands. Qadri signed the Islamabad Long March Declaration after several hours of negotiations with a government delegation. The deal, ratified by Pakistan's Prime Minister Raja Parvez Ashraf, led thousands of demonstrators to cheer and dance in the streets. But with elections now due in a couple of weeks and the judiciary and the government at loggerheads, is the threat of the so-called soft coup really averted for now? What will Pakistan be like months from now? We will be talking more about these developments that have taken place in the past 1 week. And this week on the show, I welcome Ambassador Shiv Shankar Mukherjee, former ambassador. Thank you so much, sir, for joining me on World Panorama. But before I go to him and get his perspective, let's have a look at this report. Anti-government protests in Islamabad continued as tens of thousands of people demanded the resignation of Pakistan People's Party's government.
God heard our prayers and has saved us. Now we have pledged ourselves to Him, and we will not go back until we bring change. We will not go back even if it rains, and even if they spray tear gas and bullets on us.
We don't have any support from the government. In fact, we receive threats from the government that they might attack us at any time.
The long march was led by moderate Pakistani Canadian cleric Tahir al-Qadri, who is demanding major reforms in the electoral system of the country ahead of this year's parliamentary elections. The cleric has threatened to storm the parliament if his demands are not met. Defense experts in India, meanwhile, welcomed the Pakistan Supreme Court's order to arrest the country's Prime Minister Raja Parvez Ashraf.
Supreme Court को मैं मुबारक देना चाहता हूँ.
I want to congratulate the Supreme Court of Pakistan for this decision because the current Prime Minister Raja Parvez Ashraf, I have heard that when he was the power minister, he had done several scams and made a lot of money. So I congratulate the Supreme Court of Pakistan for this landmark decision.
काफी घपला किया है, काफी पैसा खाया है.
Experts are also not ruling out the possibility of a military takeover.
The situation inside Pakistan is grave. The internal turmoil is increasing. With the arrest of the Prime Minister that Supreme Court wants, the difficulties of the government will go up. What is happening inside Pakistan is that it appears that different forces which contradict each other. The judiciary does not like the government. It is almost at loggerheads with the civil government. The army does not like the present civil government. The internal turmoil is increasing. When you put all these forces into one pot, it makes a very nice mix for the army to once again take over.
Pakistan's powerful army has a long history of coups and intervening in politics. But these days, generals seem to have little appetite for a coup. Army Chief General Ashfaq Kayani has vowed to keep the military out of politics. But many believe top military leaders still try to exert behind-the-scenes influence, and any moves by the military in the last crisis could not happen without a green light from Kayani, arguably the most powerful man in Pakistan. All right, let me bring in Ambassador Mukherjee. Sir, what do you feel now with this coming in of this new declaration? Has the crisis been averted, at least for now, till the elections take place? Do you expect things to proceed smoothly?
Well, that's a difficult call. I mean, we will have to see how it plays out. But as far as I'm concerned, as a practitioner of, as As someone who spent in professional life in diplomacy, I look upon that in two aspects. One is the internal developments, the internal dynamics of Pakistan, which is their business, and one is how it affects us, because it affects us directly. Now, it is abundantly clear that suddenly you have this person whom nobody's heard about before, a man called Qadri with dual nationality, a Sufi cleric from Canada, who suddenly finds thousands of supporters and does a 4-day sit-in in front of...
Apparently, there have been reports that he has done this earlier as well in the 90s. He tried to lead a march.
Well, yes, and then he went to Canada. He was actually a member of the National Assembly as well before he resigned. Now, where the second aspect is concerned, which is, I think, for Indians much more important, what it means for us, is that whether or not there is truth or somewhat a semblance of credibility in the reports that have come out of Pakistan and everywhere that Qadri is basically a mask, a front, a facade for the army, is the one aspect we have to consider. The timing of the judiciary's verdict to arrest the Prime Minister just a few weeks before elections are due. The timing of Mr. Qadri's march to the government just a few weeks before the elections are due. The fledgling democracy in Pakistan, which I think may worry the army, that the people of Pakistan might really want it to continue and strengthen. To me, in a very cynical and a simplistic sense, shows this entire scenario is to continue the domination of the army in the public life of Pakistan, to make sure that the electoral process, once it starts, remains in their hands, to make sure that the results of whatever elections take place are something that the army likes and is not inimical to their total control of high policy in Pakistan. So I subscribe to that line of thought.
Okay. Also, you know, now with this Long March declaration, apparently, now Qadri is given veto power. Now that, how significant do you think is that? But also the fact that it's not legally binding. The government may come out and say tomorrow that, no, this was not the arrangement that we made. You know, give him certain kind of say in the government, the caretaker government that will be.
Well, you're right. I mean, what is the legal validity of this long declaration? I'm really not quite sure about that. But suppose it does have a validity, then the veto power of Mr. Qadri is really the veto power of the army, the armed forces. It's as simple as that. And we, on our side, would do well, I think, to not get very excited about seeing this as some kind of turmoil that is actually, in the long run, something good that reflects public opinion, something that reflects the Pakistan people's desire for democracy. I think the army orchestrates this and will prevail. And therefore, we have to remain on our guard, because the army's one-point agenda, and I don't think we should forget that, is to create trouble for India. And that has been their agenda for a long, long time. And I think that will continue to be their agenda for a long, long time.
All right. So basically, Qadri coming into, you know, forming a political party, stepping into the elections, having a say, this is really, you know, significant to an extent, because the army is connected. Many believe, they say that the army is connected and they are, you know, backing him very strongly. But also, you know, I wanted to ask you this question, a little off the track over here, about how many have, you know, likened the Anna Hazare movement to Qadri. Obviously, it can't be compared really, but still there are some similarities over there.
I really don't think so. I think that comparison has been made in the Indian media, that a certain subject, corruption in India, democracy in Pakistan, has come to a point where it suddenly bubbles up and the people take to the streets. If you look at the Anna Hazare movement, I think that was correct. Corruption is something that all of us are bothered about, from petty levels of corruption to massive corruption and so on. And something happens and it spills out into the streets because of a concatenation of factors. I don't see I don't see an analogy that...
Except for the fact that you have this one leader who is trying to represent, many and saying that, something should be done about a particular issue, and that's been done. But obviously the timing of the elections in Pakistan and the Supreme Court's order, everything kind of seems very much related. And so this particular subject seems to overshadow all of that.
Yes, but I think it is a question of choosing the leader who dances to your tune. I mean, if any leader who's articulate, who has a rabble-rousing ability to talk, today goes out into the streets in Pakistan, which has been denied democracy for more than half its existence, I'm sure there'll be thousands of people who'll take to the streets. Yeah. They are people like us, they are people like anywhere else in the world who want freedom, who want democracy, who want the people's opinion reflected in their elected government's rule. So that's not a difficult thing. Why I am skeptical is that I see this as an orchestrated scenario, orchestrated by the army.
All right. Ambassador Mukherjee, let's say the civil government for now has managed to, calm passions and managed to get things back on track, at least till the elections. We'll have to wait and watch in a couple of weeks' time what really happens. What course does Pakistan take? And obviously, it's going to affect our interests as well. But thank you so much for joining me this week on World Panorama. Once again, thank you. With that, we'll take a very short break. But after that, the stunning admission from the man himself. A look at Lance Armstrong's candid chat with Oprah Winfrey. Stay tuned. You're watching World Panorama. Now, with the Syrian death toll rising to 60,000 according to United Nations, the 21-month-old uprising, which started off as a peaceful protest against President Bashar al-Assad, has become a complex case of Cold War, meddling with little relief in sight. Here are this week's developments. Syrian government airstrikes caused scenes of chaos in Rastan in Homs and demolished a bread factory in Al-Bab in the Aleppo countryside this Wednesday. Media reported that the Syrian military stepped up attacks in the cities of Idlib, Hama and Homs on Tuesday and seized hundreds of heat-seeking missiles from militants in the south province of Deraa. Shortly after, United Nations condemned another attack at Aleppo University in Syria that killed scores of students.
The Secretary General strongly condemns the appalling attack at Aleppo University yesterday, in which scores of people have been reported killed and wounded. Deliberate targeting of civilians and civilian targets constitutes a war crime. Such heinous attacks are unacceptable and must stop immediately. All combating parties in Syria must abide by their obligations under international humanitarian law.
Meanwhile, earlier, Kofi Annan, the former UN Secretary General, reaffirmed that political mediation is the only way to solve the escalating Syrian crisis.
My main concern was the Syrians and their welfare. How do you argue that trying to resolve it peacefully led to more killings? And in fact, it's very clear that many people in the region were not in favor of the talks. There were moments where they could have stepped in to support. There was lip service to we accept the 6-point plan, but nothing happened.
According to the UN, more than 60,000 people have been killed during a 22-month-old revolt against Syrian President Bashar al-Assad, which began with peaceful protests but turned violent after Assad's forces tried to crush the demonstrations. Now, the entire 50-strong global fleet of Boeing 787 Dreamliner aircraft, including 6 of Air India, have been grounded due to safety concerns. The decision follows a directive from the US regulator, Federal Aviation Administration. The FAA has ordered for the temporary grounding of all Boeing 787 Dreamliners for safety checks. All flights of the Dreamliner have been halted.
Boeing's Dreamliner has hit turbulence. Its all-new aircraft, known for its innovative design and technology, have been grounded after a potential fire risk. The decision follows after complaints of smoke coming out of its rechargeable lithium-ion batteries. Civil Aviation Minister Ajit Singh has directed the DGCA to ground all the Dreamliners until it gets clearance from US aviation regulators.
So basically what they're saying is they'll check the system, all systems and all planes because of this battery problem. And I have directed the DGCA to ground all the Dreamliners here also.
The US regulator issued an emergency airworthiness directive after a Japanese Dreamliner was forced into an emergency landing on Wednesday. Authorities in Japan, Europe, Qatar, South America and Chile have also grounded the Dreamliner fleet. Japan Airlines and All Nippon Airways had grounded 24 Dreamliners. The FAA has maintained that aircraft must demonstrate battery safety before flights can resume.
The reasons for such technical problems have to be first analyzed, reviewed, and a degree of safety has to be introduced, and then only normal operations can be resumed.
I think that the biggest problem this time is the battery. This is the most urgent thing to deal with and fix.
However, Boeing has maintained that its Dreamliners are safe and it will take all steps to assure the airlines. Chief Executive of Boeing, Jim McNerney, said, and I quote, "We will be taking every necessary step in the coming days to assure our customers and the travelling public of the 787's safety and to return the airplanes to service." Meanwhile, Poland's national airline LOT will file compensation claims after its Dreamliners were grounded.
We are analyzing our contract with the manufacturer Boeing, gathering data concerning the cost generated by the irregularities. We will be filing a complaint to the manufacturer Boeing in due time.
It's not known how much time it will take for the Dreamliner to take to its wings again, but Air India says its routine services will not be affected. Bureau Report, Rajya Sabha TV.
And in what could be termed as one of the most explosive and highly anticipated interviews in recent times, Lance Armstrong admitted to using performance-enhancing drugs during his cycling career on Thursday, describing himself as a bully and a deeply flawed character in an interview with a talk show host Oprah Winfrey. Now, in the first part of an exclusive televised interview with Winfrey that was recorded 3 days earlier at his hometown of Austin, Texas, Armstrong confessed straight away.
Yes or no? Did you ever take banned substances to enhance your cycling performance?
Yes.
Yes or no? Was one of those banned substances EPO?
Yes.
Lance Armstrong finally confessed to using performance-enhancing drugs during his once illustrious cycling career.
Yes or no? In all 7 of your Tour de France victories, did you ever take banned substances or blood dope?
Yes.
In your opinion, was it humanly possible to win the Tour de France without doping 7 times in a row?
Not in my opinion.
Admitting he cheated to win all 7 of his Tour de France titles, calling himself a bully and a deeply flawed character, Armstrong ended years of denial by revealing his darkest secrets in the interview with talk show host Oprah Winfrey at his hometown in Austin, Texas.
I was a bully in the sense that that I tried to control the narrative, and if I didn't like what somebody said, and for whatever reasons in my own head, whether I viewed that as somebody being disloyal or as a friend turning on you or whatever, I tried to control that and said that, that's a lie, they're liars.
The revelation has been welcomed by the International Cycling Union or UCI, which called it an important step forward.
For public, I mean, it might be something new, but for all people working in cycling, in sports, I mean, that's just confirmation of what we know, So there's nothing new, apart from, he, to me, even lied, because when he said that when he went back in 2009 on Tour de France, he never doped.
Armstrong, a cancer survivor who founded the Live Strong Foundation, has always denied any wrongdoing. CBS television reported on Tuesday the former rider had offered to pay more than $5 million to the government in compensation for an alleged fraud against the US Postal Service, which for years sponsored his cycling team. The network also said he had offered to cooperate as a witness in a US investigation, but the Department of Justice turned it down, raising the prospect that he could yet serve time in prison. Bureau Report, Rajya Sabha TV.
With that, we're taking another short breather. After that, other international updates. US seeks to improve ties between allies Japan and South Korea. I'll be back. Thanks for staying with us. A high-level US delegation urged allies Japan and South Korea to mend strained ties that have hurt security cooperation. Senior officials from the State Department, Pentagon and White House traveled to Seoul and Tokyo on Tuesday and Wednesday. The visit takes place against a backdrop of more threatening tensions between Japan and China over disputed islands in East China Sea.
A high-level US delegation led by its senior diplomat is visiting South Korea and Japan amid simmering tensions in the region. The visit came shortly after the election of a new Japanese government in December and before the new president of Republic of Korea is inaugurated next month.
In every meeting, we've underscored our strong desire to maintain really the unprecedented level of dialogue and closeness that we've experienced between the United States and South Korea over the last couple of years. We've shared perceptions on the Korean Peninsula, the developments in North Korea, our desire to engage positively with our friends in Beijing to ensure relations between Japan and South Korea are on an upward trajectory, and to underscore generally the strong determination of the second Obama administration to maintain our deep commitment to the Asian-Pacific region.
Media reports said another understated aim of the Chambal mission is to convince Japanese Prime Minister Shinzo Abe to step away from nationalist policies, which will anger Asian nations that suffered from Japan's militarism and further complicate US attempts to manage ties between its allies in the region and relations with China. Territorial disputes between Japan and the ROK intensified in August when ROK President Lee Myung-bak became the first ROK leader to set foot on an island claimed by both countries.
캠벨 개인적으로는 이번이 아시아 임기 중 아시아 마지막 방문으로 알고 있습니다.
It is probably the last diplomatic trip for Campbell within his team. I think his visit was meant to mediate foreign policies in the Asia-Pacific region for President Obama, who is taking office for his second term on January 20th. With Park Geun-hye soon to be inaugurated, both South Korea and United States are considering further communication and adjusting of principles.
한미 간에 어떤 원칙적인 조율이 있지 않았을까 하는 관측을 하고 있습니다.
Japan's buy of China's Diaoyu Islands and Pyongyang's threat to develop nuclear weapons have also endangered peace and stability in the region. The delegation left for Japan late Wednesday.
And time now to take a look at some of the other international news in a quick wrap. Here's Globe Watch. Syria and Iran have agreed a $1 billion credit facility between Commercial Bank of Syria and Export Development Bank of Iran. It also said the two countries had reached agreements on energy transmission and electricity equipment. Syrian TV showed footage of Syrian Prime Minister Wael al-Halqi meeting with Iranian President Mahmoud Ahmadinejad and later signing documents. Iran has positioned itself as a center of opposition to Western influence in the region. Tehran is one of the last and staunchest allies of Syrian President al-Assad. The Greek Bank Workers' Union, representing the country's bank employees, called a strike on Wednesday over government plans for state-run Hellenic Post Bank to be split up as part of plans to restructure the banking sector. Bank employees walked off the job to join employees of Hellenic Post Bank in a demonstration outside the finance ministry in Athens. Several banks remained open. Hellenic Post Bank branches were closed as the workers launched a 48-hour strike. Thousands poured onto the streets of Turkey's main Kurdish city of Diyarbakir on Thursday for the funeral of 3 Kurdish activists killed in Paris, chanting pro-military slogans as their coffins passed through the crowds. The 3 women, including a co-founder of the outlawed Kurdistan Workers' Party, were killed in execution-style shootings in the French capital last week in what many saw as an attempt to derail a nascent peace process between the Turkish state and the guerrillas. Bushfires were continuing to burn out of control in the Warrumbungle National Park in the northwest of New South Wales. Local media said the blaze is threatening to spread to the nearby town, where fires have already burned more than 42,000 hectares of land and destroyed more than 40 homes. And time now for all the very latest news from the world of movies and lifestyle. Here's our entertainment wrap.
Jail Pussy Riot member Maria Aliokhina, during a hearing of her appeal on Wednesday, likened her treatment in prison to an experience from a Kafka or an Orwell novel. Aliokhina, 24, has been serving out her 2-year jail sentence in a penal colony near the town of Berezniki in Russia's Perm region. On Wednesday, she appealed for an early release from prison in order to be reunited with her son. Laotian designer Hein Li kicked off Berlin's Mercedes-Benz Fashion Week on January the 15th as the German capital gets ready for a dusting off glitz to liven up a grey January. Set up in its spot of honor under the landmark Brandenburg Gate, the Mercedes-Benz tent will host some 50 shows between January 15th and 19th as Berlin hopes to cement its place in the fashion calendar alongside its more glamorous cousins Milan, Paris and New York. In the aftermath of the elementary school shooting in Newtown, Connecticut, students from the town have joined with indie pop singer-songwriter Ingrid Michaelson to record a version of Over the Rainbow. The proceeds from sales of the song will benefit the Newtown Youth Academy and the United Way of Western Connecticut. The recording was produced by Chris Frantz and Tina Weymouth of Talking Heads fame and later the Tom Tom Club. The single was recorded at the couple's studio in their home in Connecticut. Tim Hayes, the reopened punk rock mainstay nightclub CBGB, came up with the idea.
That's all we have for you in this edition of World Panorama. I'll be back next week, same time with more world news. Till then, you can join us on Facebook and Twitter for the latest updates from us. This week, we wrap up in style. Check out all the glitz and glamour at the Oscars. Goodbye and thanks for watching.